Yes.
Hi, friends. Hold on a second. Just take a second. Yep, we're good. We're not live. Dancing for perfect.
You see me?
I think it's working, but it's like, you want to it's working. No, we need to move it over. Say hi, Lexi. Hi, Lexi.
Hi, Lexi.
Bear with us. We're running late today. Okay, wait. Look around there. Oh, it's still 8, isn't it? Go. Let's see if it looks good. I think it looks good. Yeah, I think it looks good. They're removed somewhere, but that's fine.
I'm so excited we have both mics working today, guys. So you can hear both Lexi and I. Okay, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome back to Live with the Perfect Day Company. If you guys don't know, I feel like you should if you're here watching one of our live streams, but if you don't know, the Perfect Day Company specializes in day of coordination for couples all over the Four Corners area. We get the privilege of helping people celebrate and be present on their day for over 100 events all over the Four Corners. We coordinate up in Silverton and Durango and at venues all over the area. So we are doing different live streams each week to talk about what we already talked about. We talked about DJs. We talked about, what was the first one? Florals. Today we're talking about catering and just all things wedding food. So we're going to talk about some trends, tips and tricks for, I hate that phrase. I shouldn't say that, but ideas and just really some advice for booking your caterer, and then just run through some mistakes we've seen caterers made. Lexi, you introduce yourself and I'm going to grab my drink.
Totally. I'm Lexi, and this is my second season with the Perfect Day Co. And
Seems like so much longer than that.
I know. It's lots of weddings and super fun. So yeah, it feels like it's kind of like I've been here for way longer. So.
And let you get the special privilege of having Lexi here today because Lexi's actually planning her own wedding.
Yep.
Which is so fun. You want to tell them a little bit about your own wedding, what you have planned so far?
Yeah. I'm a Perfect Day Co bride 2025, and I'm getting married October 11th at the Black Diamond Lodge, just right by Perg. And yeah, super excited. I definitely am able to relate to my brides a lot more, I feel like, now that I know all the planning and color deciding and all the things like that. So yeah.
For sure. We talk a lot about matching brides' excitement here at Perfect Day Company because we want to make sure that you know that we're as excited about your day as you are. And so Lexi's got to experience that firsthand and working with some of the awesome vendors that we work with and then being just as excited. And so that's been really cool to kind of see. Okay, we're going to go through some food trends in the industry right now. These just get pulled from Pinterest, so we actually haven't even read these, so I don't really know what they say. But I will say whenever we're talking about trends, this is not to say that you shouldn't or should not do these. If you're really excited about something, we do not want this to make you feel like you shouldn't do it if it's something you're excited about. But we're going to answer as if it were our own wedding.
Totally.
So, yeah. Okay, late night snacks. Are you doing late night snacks at your own wedding?
I somewhat late night. I mean, we're leaving, like we're doing our grand expo at 10, so we're leaving. But yeah, I definitely want like a ton of like snacks. I have a massive sweet tooth, so a bunch of desserts.
Extra dessert.
Yeah, and then like second round of desserts, and then maybe some like pretzels. And I really love pizza rolls too, like the little ones. So I think some of those would be awesome.
Yeah, I would say always late night snacks. I feel the only thing I regretted about my own wedding was I felt like we got rushed out at the end, and I really wish that we had gotten to stay longer. And I feel like I had late night snacks lined up. We had s'mores and I had like cookies and coffee and the whole thing, and we like got rushed off before we could even enjoy it.
No.
So it's actually the only thing I would change about my wedding. But I think having late night snacks is really great. And if it's something that doesn't fit in your budget, an easy way to do it is to say, we're not going to do favors and we're going to do late night snacks instead. It's just something that I feel like your guests remember better.
Yeah. And I even saw one did like root beer floats.
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't have to be expensive stuff. Like,
for sure. I've done popcorn.
Soda.
I mean, popcorn costs nothing.
Yeah, totally.
My favorite at my cousin's wedding, they had these people dress up like Italian chefs, and they like brought out little mini pizzas and like little mini to-go pizza boxes.
That's so cute.
And then they also this was like a very bougie wedding, and it was beautiful. But they also had like a late night burger truck, which was really fun too. So late night snacks are so fun. Okay. Grazing tables or cones or just charcuterie in general?
I definitely love that like people get to pick what they want. I know it definitely like creeps some people out that there's like food out in the open and like people could like touch it and put it back. But I like it. I think it's nice getting to choose what you want.
I had grazing trays at my wedding. I probably wouldn't now if I were like to get married tomorrow. I'd probably do something like either cones or like, I don't even like past apps. I think I would probably do something like individually wrapped or packaged. Not packaged. That's not the right word.
But like
individually plated.
Yeah.
But I did do it at my wedding. Okay, food trucks.
I mean, I personally want it, but if it's your vibe, I think it's super cool. I think it's awesome for like rehearsal dinner.
Yeah. Weird enough, we don't have a ton of food trucks. We do have some, like in our area, we do have some people that'll do like barbecue or tacos, and it's very food truck style and budget, but they don't actually have the truck. So I actually don't know of any food trucks in our area that'll service Durango. If you are a food truck out there watching, you should let me know if you want to do weddings. So it's not really an option here. I do think it's cool, probably more for the rehearsal, in my opinion. It gets a little bit clunky having guests order their food for dinner. I feel like that would get a little clunky.
And like waiting and
Mm-hmm. Okay, buffet style dinners or seated plate dinners?
I prefer buffet, again, of like letting guests choose what they want to eat. I feel like there's just like a lot less waste than like having fully plated meals that people don't want to eat as much.
I feel like this is a total budget decision. If you have the money to do plated, you can do plated, but it's usually about 3 to 4 times as much money. So if that's not in your budget, then just go with buffet. And I've seen lots of really nice, beautiful buffet style weddings. I think people sometimes feel like they're not going to have as nice of a wedding if it's buffet, and I don't think that's necessarily true.
Yeah.
I will say it gets really hard to do a buffet if you have more than 200 people. I've only done a few of those. The line is really, really, really long.
Yeah.
So it can get complicated, but it also would be hard to plate that many.
Yeah.
plates.
That'd be a huge team.
Let's see. Interactive food stations like build your own. I think these are pretty trendy right now, but like build your own like burger, or build your own charcuterie, or build your own, like maybe making food part of the experience. Build your own ramen bar.
Ooh,
I've seen something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. We don't have any caterers that I feel like would do that, but I think it'd be fun.
Yeah. And I think definitely like your last point of like, I think it would depend on your guest count, because I could see that taking a really, really long time for people. So
I went to a wedding once where they made ice cream sandwiches, but it was like an interactive thing where you'd go and you would tell them the ice cream and the cookies and the sprinkles, and like they made this whole show of like putting it on the cookies and like make it. So I feel like if it is like part of the entertainment, I think it can be cool. Weddings with no meal at all, just appetizers or drinks.
I have been to a couple that have done this. I definitely think you just like need to let people know before, like put it on the invitation so that people don't arrive like expecting a full meal and then just getting charcuterie and being.
I think that's great. My sister had a really beautiful wedding and they didn't have dinner or anything, which is shocking to me because my whole goal with my wedding was to have like this fancy dinner party. I love like sitting around a table with someone, but I think they're going across the yard. So my husband and his team do junk removal, and they're removing a hot tub today from our neighbor's house, and they just walked across the yard with a bunch of fence posts, and I'm just imagining like how they're going to use the fence posts
roll the hot
to
tub
take the hot tub down off this patio. So yeah, if Stella catches that later, we'll show you guys sometime. Imagine that's going to be pretty funny to watch. Okay, family style dining. That's kind of just to define what family style dining is. It's an alternative to having a buffet where people walk through the line and get their food, or a plated dinner where people bring you your food on a plate. Family style is when caterers plate things on like a community dish and then bring it to the table that can kind of be passed around. What do you think? We do this a lot here in Durango. I actually didn't really, I think it's been more popular in coming years, or maybe it's more popular with the caterers that we use, but we see it a lot. What do you think about family style?
Again, I like it. I guess my theme is like letting guests choose what they want to eat. So there's like probably not as much waste as at least like what my thought process is. I think the only thing is like you definitely need to think about your table decorations with family, because you're gonna have this like massive plate that all your guests are passing around. You don't want like a bunch of flowers or something kind of getting in the way of that.
I actually didn't put that in mistakes we've seen caterers make, but this is actually a huge one. It's something that we try to check beforehand as coordinators, is what is the width of the tables, how big are your tables. It works great on circle tables because there's plenty of room, but if you have like a long farm style table, your runners and your candles and your flowers and everything beautiful is on the middle, and then you go to serve a family style meal and there's nowhere to set the dishes.
Yeah. Totally.
So you can still do runners or flowers a lot of times where you can set the dishes on top of that. But it's just something to kind of take in consideration if you're planning on doing a family style meal. Okay, last one, brunch weddings with breakfast food.
I love it. I think early morning weddings would be so fun. I don't know, as I'm approaching my wedding, I was like, I want the ceremony to be as early as possible so that I can actually get to like spend my wedding day with my husband, you know? So yeah, I think breakfast wedding's super fun. I think breakfast food is also super fun. Like pretty much everyone loves breakfast food. So, and it's like different.
I think it would be a real consideration for my husband and I, if we were to get married again, to have brunch food at a dinner wedding, like breakfast for dinner. Yeah. It would be like a real conversation.
I feel like that's just like also super memorable. Like people would go away like years later. I feel like
oh yeah, remember they had pancakes and omelets and talk about like an interactive food station. It'd be so cool to have like an omelet bar where people could go up and make omelets. Yeah. I just love breakfast. Either way, you can usually do that if you want to do brunch on your wedding day or like a morning after brunch is what people usually do. So you can always serve your people breakfast food when it's not your wedding. Okay, let's transition just to some reasons you need a caterer. I've said this before on these lives, but if you are leaning towards not having a caterer, we're never going to tell you, no, you can't. One consideration is that a lot of venues in the area do require that you have a licensed caterer, like you can't cook yourself or bring in food. The reason for that is there's a lot of logistics that come with moving food in a safe way and keeping it hot and making sure it's not going to make people sick. So a lot of venues will require you to use a licensed caterer for that reason. Most of our venues here in Durango, there's not any cooking on site. So all of our caterers are transporting food, and it can sometimes be, I don't know, if you're doing up in Silverton, it can sometimes be like up to 2 hours. So people just need to know how to transport food safely. So that's one consideration, but there are some venues where you can cook yourself. Kendall Mountain's one that I've seen. Where else? Like Irma J. I think at Ridgewood you can cook yourself. But that is an option. I do want to do the disclaimer that typically your coordinator can't be your caterer. I think we get the question a lot of like, hey, we're not going to have a caterer. Can you put out our appetizers? Hey, can you do whatever? One, we're super busy, so there's not really a ton of time, but also the like health aspect, none of our team or any coordinator you hire is going to be trained in making sure that the food is clean and warm, heated to temp and all of those things. So it's just something to like be cognizant of. I've had one wedding that people got food poisoning after, and I feel like that'd just be the worst way for people to remember your wedding.
I remember their wedding, the one we all got food poisoning.
Yeah, it's like we all got sick after. So just something to consider. If you do decide to like DIY your catering, I would suggest having a dedicated person, not one of your parents, and probably not one of your siblings, but like a close friend or a family friend that can own it and make sure that the dishes are there and the serving utensils are there and all of those logistics. Mm-hmm. I think in a lot of big cities, caterers typically set your tables. We at most of the venues here do set tables. So that's part that we're like happy to help with. We're happy to help with like telling the dedicated person the timing. But as far as like putting out food, you really need like a caterer or at the bare minimum, someone who's like in charge of that. Mm-hmm. Have you done any weddings that people catered themselves?
No, I've only seen rehearsal dinners, or like the appetizers during cocktail hour. Like a lot of people just go to Sam's and get like a big charcuterie or like, cheese and cracker tray. And yeah, I think those are like really it, but I haven't seen anyone like the actual
cater them their meal. Yeah, no. It's really stressful. It is. I feel like people don't realize how hard it is to feed that many people. And so they're like, oh yeah, my aunt will cook for us. And then you're looking at like, what are the logistics of rolling out 60 hot meals is hard. Totally. Yeah, my husband and I took a foray into running catering for a little bit when we've managed different venues. Like would not do that again. With so many logistics. It's probably, I would say, the hardest wedding vendor to do well and also to do profitably just because of the food costs. So it's complicated. Okay, we already kind of talked about different service styles, so we're going to run right into booking your caterer and just the logistics of how to book your caterer. This is great because you just did it, but like how do you even go about that? Where do you start?
Yeah. I mean, I think first would definitely be like, is food like a big deal to you all? Because I know some people are like, yes, I want, a steak or
Yeah.
chicken, or like there's even some, I've seen like elk burgers or like elk steak. Like,
Yes.
it just really depends.
I did
like,
an elk and quail combo. Like that was the two
Ooh.
options. It was really cool. It was all seasonal farm to table.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that just really depends of like if you're like, I want super seasonal, I want really high end, or if you're like, I just need to feed these people so they're not hungry. I think that kind of like varies. And I think if you're more towards that like higher end, probably I would say like reach out as soon as the venue and stuff, and just start getting that down. I think like the more casual, if it's like at least here in town, if it's like Sirius, Texas or something like that, that's a restaurant, they can usually kind of be more flexible and like, get that in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think that's great. And one thing I'll say is that caterers, often caterers will have the ability to cater multiple meals at a time. So don't ever feel like it's too late to reach out. But we actually talked about that you didn't hear, but with DJs and florists, like the more of a priority it is, the earlier you win a book. And the like less of a priority or like lower budget in, you can get away with booking a lot closer. I typically would say right after you book your venue, the next thing would be your cater. The other reason is that we don't have a ton of caterers. So it's hard when something that you wanted or a caterer you really liked is booked. So that can be a bummer. There's just not that many of them. So yeah. And then what do you feel like the caterer wants to know? Like if you were going to reach out in your initial email, whether you're filling out a form on their website or emailing, what are the things?
Definitely your name. I'm sure they would want to know you and your fiance's name, but definitely date and venue. That definitely helps them. Like, A, do they even have that date available? B, are they able to like get out to your venue if it's really far away? But then also like guest count, they'll need to know that for especially like making you a quote, because obviously dinner for 50 is going to be way more than like 20. And then I think also like talking to them about your style, like we said, like do you want steak or are you more like you want pizza? And then the different types we talked about of like buffet, plated, family, and also like you can totally ask them questions if you're like, I don't know if I want plated or I don't know if I want family. Like talk to them about that. But I definitely like would let them know about those. And then I'd say too, if you have like a really specific eating style, like if you're vegan, like, as a bride or groom, and that's kind of like a big deal, I think definitely let those people know, so that they can like let you know on the options that they have for those.
Yeah, that's great. I think sometimes people are hesitant to reach out to caterers because they don't know exactly what they want to eat on their wedding day. And I would encourage you, if you have this stuff, if you know where you're getting married, you have a guest on your guest count, going ahead and starting that conversation is great because most caterers are willing to have that conversation and give you ideas and talk about your preferences. I watched someone have a conversation once that they literally just asked, like, what are your top 2 most memorable meals, or where do you guys go for a date? And they basically built a menu off of stuff that they were really excited about. So caterers are really good at this, and they know what translates well, what tastes good to 100 different people. And so just kind of bringing that and starting the conversation. I don't want people to feel like they can't reach out to their caterer until they know what meal they want. And especially if there's different caterers, go ahead and start conversations with several different ones, because you might like someone's menu better or their personality better, or their availability. But I think having that conversation with multiple people at the same time will actually really be really clarifying. Yeah. Instead of sitting around being like, well, I researched their website and I didn't quite find the menu I wanted. Most caterers can cook a lot of things. Yeah. It's really impressive. That's great.
And just as like a bride going through it too, I don't know, one thing I would like reach out to a vendor and they like wouldn't get back to me, or they like, I feel like a big part for us is like, we always, like she said at the beginning, like really want to like give that energy back to you. Like, this is your big day. We're really excited about that. So like one thing that hit me was like a couple of vendors like didn't even say congrats. They were just like, here's this like details. So I think if you also have like a gut feeling about one, like listen to that a little bit more, like I don't want, like, you don't want them to like, they don't email you, they don't contact you, and the day of, it's kind of just like a letdown,
Jake from Global Kitchen is so good at this. He always says he like is putting love and energy and like good vibes into your food, which sounds so like woo-woo, but you're also like, okay, I don't want someone on site on my wedding day that isn't like aligned. And doesn't want to be there. And so that's really important. Just huge shout out to our caterers here in town. We have some that we just love working with. Jake with Global Kitchen's one of them. He actually has a background in nutrition and like food science. And so his big deal is like wanting to like have people be like fueled and like really nutrient dense meals at your wedding, which I think is so cool. If that's something that's important to you, I would definitely reach out to him. We work with Amy with Etville Law, and her team is incredible. She has some of the best staff that I've ever worked with. So she's very professional. And as far as like the setup, the cleanup, and just making the day go smoother. We work with Jimmy with During Gourmet. He's been in the area for years and years. I've probably done 100+ weddings with him. He's the one who did the local elk and quail combo, which was so fun. So we're just really knowledgeable. And then we work a ton with Serious Texas Barbecue and Zia Taqueria. They're just more affordable options. I don't know if affordable is really the only reason, though. They're more casual, so that's what you want for your wedding, and you want people to be able to get tacos and all of those things. Those are great options. And shout out to Fired Up Pizza as well. They're really amazing to work with. They have an awesome team. They'll take their pizza oven literally everywhere. I had my friend Emma's wedding. They had to come down this giant hill. It was pouring rain, and it's a dirt road. And I remember their team being like, well, I'm not sure how we're gonna get back up this hill, but we're coming down because we have to feed the people dinner. Like slid all the way down this hill. And we ended up having to like get 2 tractors to pull them back up at the end of the night. But just those caterers that are gonna go above and beyond, that's what you want. And if you need any recommendations, we can definitely send you more. A few just random hot topics and things to chat about. One is tasting. So I just want to give a disclaimer, just because your caterer doesn't do a tasting doesn't mean they're necessarily bad. We have a ton of caterers here in town, and none of them that I know of will do tastings, mostly because they're not like a restaurant. So they're just not set up to make one meal. They'd have to go get every ingredient for that one thing. So I would encourage you, calling other couples who have worked with them is a great way, talking to your vendors to see what they think of their food, asking them for like menu variations and adjustments. But don't be surprised if caterers don't do tastings. It's something you see in the movies that actually doesn't translate to how real weddings work. I don't know if I've ever had a couple able to do a tasting before. You talked about vendor meals and just the logistics and what to expect as a bride.
Totally. So kind of, you just want to be able, where am I going? Like, so all your vendors are there, obviously working hard, making your day perfect. And you need to talk to them beforehand too. Most of them have it in their contract that they do like require a vendor meal and that. And so that's like one thing, like coordinator, you can definitely talk to, but even if you're like just wanting to figure it out beforehand, like I had a bride that was like just booking her vendors, and every single time she would book, she was like, do you need a vendor meal? How many do I need to provide? I definitely would get that. Like, if you're concerned about that, I would definitely like be talking to them and be like, how many people are you bringing? And like, how many people do I need to feed?
It's kind of a budget item that gets forgotten.
Totally.
On a typical wedding, we see between 7 and 12 vendor meals, which can be, if that's 30 a plate, that's, $300-400. But if that's 100 a plate, that's another $1,000. Totally. So just making sure that you're accounting for that in your budget and just knowing that most vendors do require it. Another kind of really weird logistic about vendor meals is you'll see when we write a timeline, we always say the vendors eat when the couple eats. Do you want to explain what that means when we say the vendors eat and the couples eat?
So we have the vendors eat beforehand, because like whenever you all are sitting down to dinner, we're like having to do things in the background. So if we can eat like a little bit beforehand, and then that way, whenever your guests are finished and we move straight on to cake cutting or toast or something like that, then all the vendors can be back and ready for that. That's kind of like our only time to be able to eat. So it's like, if we let all your guests go through first and then vendors eat at the back, it's usually either they're like not getting to eat very much, or it's kind of having to rush of like, you get to eat really fast so that we can.
Or worst case scenario, I've had scenarios where like your guests are done eating, they're sitting there, they're kind of bored, they're ready for the dessert, they're ready to move on to toast, and we can't because the coordinator just got food, or your photographer just got food, or your DJ. So photographer, DJ, and your coordinators is really the most important, but that they're eating right at the beginning of the meal when you eat. This is something that we talk caterers directly about. We talk to them about it on the day of. We get a lot of pushback, and I think the industry as a whole, you see it a lot on Instagram, like the industry as a whole gets pushback for when vendors eat. But there's a reason we say vendors eat when the couple eats. So that's just a little chat. Okay, how do you feel about seating charts? Should you have one? Should you not have one? And what are the logistics as far as it goes with catering?
I think it definitely depends. Like if you're having a plated meal, you have to have a seating chart. Like or some other, you got to really work with your caterer and coordinator to figure that out. Cause they need to know, if it's plated, they need to know who's getting the steak and who's getting the chicken or whatever like that. I feel like when you say seating chart, people think you have to like say like, Sarah, you are sitting in this exact spot, and Tom, you're sitting in this exact spot. It's like, you don't necessarily have to do it. I think like just saying, hey, all 6 of you are at this table, and then like letting them kind of seat themselves, I think works totally fine. I think if it's like under, I don't know, like 30 or 40, I think you could probably get away with no seating chart, especially if it's like pretty close people. But it just gets really awkward. Like I know people are like, oh, we want our friends to like be able to choose where they're sitting, but then it always somehow ends up that there's like one chair at a table left and there's a couple that wants to sit there. So then it's either they get split up or they get like, they start moving chairs and moving tables and plates. And that just like gets really complicated while everyone's like trying to seat down for dinner. And especially
it can also take forever if you don't have a seating chart. I think people go to weddings expecting one. So then when they don't see one, they're like, where should I sit? Do I sit close to the couple?
Yeah, totally.
Or is that for family? Or do I not sit close to the couple, but I can't hear? And it just gets really complicated. So it just is I think it's a gift to your guest to have a seating chart.
Yeah.
To just be able to
I've definitely noticed that. I'm glad you said that, because I've definitely noticed that weddings, if there's not a seating chart, I have to like explicitly tell people like, there's no seating chart. It's okay.
It's totally
like,
fine. I think people expect them.
Yeah.
It's not fun. As a couple or bride, it's not super fun to sit down and have to be like, this person won't fit at the table. Where else can I put them? Will these friends get along? So I know it's complicated, but it's worth it, I think. Yeah. Okay, we're just gonna finish up with mistakes we've seen caterers make. We're gonna go back and forth. I'll say probably the biggest one would be running out of food. And the sole reason I've only ever had a caterer run out of food is if they do a self-serve buffet. Usually this happens when a couple's like, I'm not blaming the couple at all, but it was totally the caterer's fault. But when the couple says, I want to save money, and the caterer tries to get this quote down so much that it's not including staff. And then they're like, oh, well, I'll just put out the food, and then I only have to charge you X number of dollars. Well, the problem with that is that they're not portioning. And so people think, oh, I'm going to get 2 helpings of mashed potatoes. And this has happened at 3 or 4 weddings and they were all with self-serve buffets, and we ran out of food. And it's just very, well, no one wants to do that at their wedding. It's just the worst. It's like probably one of the worst things that could happen at a wedding. And so I would just make sure that if you are doing a buffet, that you're making sure that your caterer has the adequate staff to actually serve that buffet, or even just asking them point blank, have you ever had a scenario where you've run out of food? If so, did you handle that? Or if we were to run out of food, how would we handle that? And I've even had some couples like do 1.5 meal counts for that reason, and just saying we really don't want to run out of food. We want to have leftovers. So just running out of food is probably the biggest mistake. I think just to add on that, I think too is like I would much rather people go through the line and like get seconds again than like people scooping seconds for themselves the first time, and then they don't even like eat it because they scoop too much food. And like you said, I mean, the waste is kind of crazy at weddings, so it just helps avoid that too. I think like having if people have certain dietary needs, I think making that super clear, and then also like, if someone's like celiac, like making sure like, let's just say Zia's, for example, is awesome. Like if you have like a celiac person, they'll bring 2 different like little grills to like sear the tortillas. So I think just making that super clear as like a bride or groom of like, if it's just like a sensitivity or you prefer not to eat it, that's one thing. And I would like definitely still let them know. But if it's like celiac things, like definitely let the caterers know, like these people like cannot touch this. And that's something that you could bring up in your initial conversation with caterers too. We don't work with any caterers that can't handle that, but just saying at the beginning, like, hey, we have some dietary needs. How do you typically approach that? And then just making sure those are really well labeled. And then I don't know if you can tell your wedding guests this, but if you ever attend a wedding and you do have dietary needs, just asking when people give you your plate. I've had a few scenarios where the caterer got it mixed up, where there was a dairy-free and a gluten-free and they mixed them up. And so just triple asking when someone delivers your food, just saying like, hey, I just want to double check. I am allergic to nuts, so this has had nuts in it. Can just be like an added check. Someone got really sick, and I feel like, yes, it was the caterer's fault. Yes, the couple could have labeled more, but as a wedding guest, you should also ask before you eat something. Mostly because you're like, we're trying to feed 100 people, and your caterer is trying to work with your coordinator, which is trying to work with your venue to make sure all of the things are well. And some of the times those things can fall through the cracks. So this is something you definitely want to let your coordinator know if there's something serious, because we can triple check. That's if we know ahead of time, it's a really easy thing as a coordinator to go through and just triple check that we have all the dietary stuff sorted out. I was going to say one of the, I don't know if this is actually a mistake on the couples or the caterers end, but I've seen a few times recently where a caterer hasn't put everything on their invoice. And so when it comes to the actual bill, they're like surprised by the final total. Mm-hmm. So as a couple, you just always want to clarify, is this the total bill? Does it have travel, tax, gratuity, some setup, staffing, etc.? I feel like as a couple and as a coordinator, I would think the caterers would always just include that to like protect themselves, like so we don't all get mad at them. But that doesn't always happen. And sometimes in the actual contract, it will say that the gratuity has to be X amount. So typically there's like a 20% gratuity already included. So you just want to make sure that you're doing your gratuity, travel, tax are like the big ones, and just asking for that. Sometimes they can add like I had one that like was almost 200%, basically doubled their bill after all that stuff was added in. So just triple checking that all of that stuff's there. Arrival times, your favorite.
Yeah, and I mean, this is definitely like coordinator's job to like double check all of that. But yeah, I would say just making sure that they, like I personally ask the caterer, like, hey, how much time is this going to take you? You need to be ready at this time, like here's the guest count. I like to kind of talk with them because obviously they know their setup way better than mine. Like I know their setup time, but then just like triple checking that on the coordinator side. Bride, groom, you should not be worrying about this.
But I guess as far as mistakes, I have seen people caterers get their arrival times wrong.
Yes.
And usually the bride and groom never know because we comp for it on the back end, but it is like a mistake that sometimes happen, and it's usually some sort of miscommunication or
like a middleman got it wrong.
Yep, it's usually a middleman. Actually, almost always. Yeah, you had a call with the person who owns the catering company, and then they handed that off to their manager. So just so you guys know, on the coordination side, a lot of times we'll ask like, who's the actual person on site? Can we get their phone number so that when on the day of and someone hasn't arrived yet, we can call them, the person who's coming, instead of someone who might be on site at a different wedding or something like that. And then finally, I just wanted to chat about water service and busing. This is something that you also want to make sure is on your invoice. Different caterers do this different. Some caterers in our area actually won't do it. And in that case, you want to make sure water service and busing are either on your bill with your coordinator. We have like an add-on that we can do, or on your bill with your bartender. A lot of the bartenders will have like an add-on service. But you just want to make sure that someone is getting there early enough to fill waters at the table. Water stations are great, and you definitely want to have water stations at the bar, but you really want to have water at the table, especially at our high altitude and when people are drinking so much. So making sure someone's getting there early enough for water service, and then also someone bussing the tables after. Like I said, we're happy to add this on as a service. We just bring more people to do the water service and the bussing, but most caterers have that service as well. It is usually an additional charge. I don't know why. I feel like caterers should include this. Should just be in your per head, personally. The best caterers, I think, would include this. That being said, there's a lot of caterers here that don't include it automatically. So you just want to make sure you're requesting that. And this is something that when we're reviewing your timeline, we're going to catch and say, hey, who's doing water service and who's busing? And if it's not your caterer, we can kind of figure out what's going to be the most affordable way to make sure that that's filled. Cool. Anything else you can think of before you tell me the favorite meal you've ever had at a wedding? I should have given you time to think about that question.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't think.
I feel like I'm such a cake person, which we're talking about next live. But I feel like I'm such a cake person. You too. My favorite meal at wedding might be all the cake.
Oh yeah, that's like the highlight of my.
Silly the cake. Sorry, caterers. Are you having Zias at your wedding?
Yeah.
I actually would say I think a lot of local wedding vendors get tired of eating Zias, but it's our local taco bar. It's actually probably one of my favorite wedding meals because you can make it what you want. There's 100 different salsas. You can do flour or corn or make a bowl. There's a bunch of different meats. I think that's so cool that your guests can actually choose what they want to eat. So that's like, I feel like that's a cop-out answer, but everything Jake makes is amazing. So, I'm always excited to see what new thing, but Probably see us.
Yeah.
Is that what you're gonna say?
I think my like favorite, it was like a rehearsal dinner, and it was Amy at Voila, and it was like the couple just said, we just want pizzas. We don't care what you make, do whatever you want. And she just like had so much fun with it, and she made this like super awesome like. It was like prosciutto and honey and like something. It was I love all those like fruit kind of pizzas. So that was amazing. She also had one pizza that had like corn on it. I think it was like a Mexican street corn pizza.
This is what like happens
so
when you
cool.
give your caterer freedom to like do what they want.
Yeah.
It's like they're chefs at heart. So they're gonna like be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll make amazing food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Totally.
good. Well, our next live is not next week because we have a big venue day up in Silverton, but the following week we're going to be talking about dessert and cake and every alternative to cake, which that's pretty much it. I was gonna say I don't like alternatives to cake. I love cake, but
I mean, ice cream.
but there are alternatives to cake. So we'll talk about all things dessert. So tune in, and otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube and on Instagram, and share this with any couples that you think might need help with their wedding food.
Totally.
Bye.